proposed plan for Queen's Wharf, now on display at the City Administration building, features one main structure broken into several levels and connected to the central business district by a pedestrian bridge. The plan is dominated by a tower, a symbol of Newcastle's maritime and industrial character. Architect of the Queen's Wharf complex, Kevin Snell.
At this stage we're envisaging a steel structure with a myriad of concentric rings stacked on top of one another, painted in high gloss colour to make this tower an international comment, something that we in Newcastle would like to see.
Do you think the development is sympathetic to its setting and the overall harbour foreshore development?
Well, you've got to remember that this design is part of the total foreshore design, which was designed by Tract. Our precinct has to blend in with that foreshore design. It has to be the gateway to the central business district, and it has to have an elevation, as it were, a face to the harbour and a face to the city. So we've used the textures and the scale of the traditional buildings there, but in a very modern way.
So you think Queen's Wharf will be an exciting development for Newcastle?
I think, look, it's got to be. This is our chance to really stand up and be counted with a total foreshore design, and our building being a focus of that design. We've got to make sure that it's on an international standard.
For some, the highway to success continues in road. For others, it's a place towards a desperate tree to employment.
Store all the time, you know, and that's what I'm a bit worried about and a bit edgy about the commission side.
Do you think you're going to apply for that job?
Well, I'll give it a try, I'll see what's involved and I'll get a few, you know, stuff from
Robert, along with others,
oh
is
yeah,
put off
this is
work.
commission.
Concerned
Tell me
with
straight off.
Maybe
that he's now being employed for not taking him out. While we were interviewing Robert, he offered for a job he would rather.
There is two types. You could do a canvassing door to door, or there is a promotional work. That's okay. Well, you need a car for
The
that.
job offered
that
was
job.
with an advertising
Or
firm,
canvassing
and wages were based on commission. Not the sort of secure and permanent job that Robert is looking for, but he's willing to give it a go.
Do you think you're going to apply for that job?
Well, I'll give it a try, I'll see what's involved and I'll get a few more details and so forth, but, you know, that's something I've got to work on too, you know. I've got
Robert Morpher has just one message for any prospective employers.
The only message I could say is, give me a job, that's all I can say. I'll join it, just give me a chance, that's it. You know, because I reckon I'm worth the chance.
Educate the public about the role of the law
Students
in
from
the
the
legal
college
profession.
attended the workshop.
It's intended to foster better understanding of law and the role relationships with each other
Mark
and with
Sullivan,
other people.
a local
Quite often
solicitor
people
who
don't
outlined the Family Law Act and its effect
333.
in relation to children. Some of the topics covered included child welfare,
There
divorce
is the
and
Marriage
custody
and
law.
Family Centre
Today's seminar was only one of the services provided this
of
week
the
by the
Family Law Act
Newcastle
on
Law
those
Society.
children.
Other activities
Family Law Act
include an
was
advice
made law in
group operating at the Market
1975,
Square Shopping
long
Centre,
for decisions
a
such as
phone-in
their health.
service to answer questions, as well
When
as
it's set
civil
for the
and
party
community
on a section by
seminars.
section basis
One of the
and just
aims
make
of
some
Law Week
comments,
is to make
but
people
still
aware
a
of
joint
their rights and
guardianship of those
obligations.
children,
And
they
according
can
to
still
Mr.
have a right
Sullivan,
to make
the
decisions
Family
such
Law
as
Act
where
is a
those children go
significant
to
piece of
school.
legislation. How important is it for people to know about the Family Law Act?
I think it's very important. Recent statistics are that at least 1 in 3 marriages tend to break down. There hasn't been any decrease in the number of marriages, so that it means people are marrying for a second time, and quite often you have children and property disputes which all need to be resolved so that the parties can get on and lead an independent life again.
Where can people find out about laws affecting the family?
Well, they can approach their solicitor. In many cases, when a party leaves the former matrimonial home, they become eligible for Commonwealth benefits, supporting parents' pension or a widow's pension. They can attend at their solicitor's office and make an application for legal aid, or they can attend directly at the Australian Legal Aid Office and seek some advice there. And
Demolition began on 4 houses in Overstreet, Hamilton today to make way for the extension to St Francis Xavier College. Yesterday's Land and Environment Court hearing gave the CEO the green light on stage 1 of its expansion project, the 42-car car park and its technical science building. In 2 weeks, the CEO will make application for its land surrounding the college to be rezoned for school uses. And in 6 weeks, it will submit a development application for more classrooms, a new library and new offices. The Newcastle City Administration says it will consider each application carefully. But despite the CEO's victory at the Land and Environment Court, the administration did not come out the loser. The senior assessor said he agreed with the council's planning strategy, but he still found in favour of the CEO. Surprisingly, the director of the CEO, Montana says he also agrees with the administration's policy of retaining residential areas.
I think I could say that the Catholic Education Office also agrees with the Council's overall policy objectives for the area. We had to consider the needs of the school. It's a designated development in a residential zone. And one of the assurances that the Church has given the Council over the signature of the Bishop, in fact, is that the diocese will replace the housing stock within a reasonable distance of the college, the housing stock that's proposed for demolition.
The YWCA's Human Rights Committee was previously under the jurisdiction of the Association's National Executive, but at yesterday's State Council meeting, the New South Wales branch officially took on the running of the committee. State President Vivian Ashcroft said that part of the National Executive to centralise many of the YWCA's activities.
It's one of the things that the National see as a decentralising thing. Normally the work emanates from National, but they see that as part of their decentralisation policy. Also, the interest is here with people who are particularly involved in human rights.
What's the role of the committee?
Well, we are yet to define those roles, but we've been talking along the lines of issues perhaps relating to the Vietnamese boat people, women's health, children's rights, all those sorts of things, but we haven't yet determined.
The Newcastle branch of the YWCA also announced a number of new activities. Project initiator Torres said the vacation health centre will be run during the school holidays.
We're having excursions, we're taking the children to see a film or two. They'll be doing craft, dancing, singing, all sorts of things like that.
Police in this district were given an open invitation to meet their commissioner. About 100 were able to attend his lecture, where Mr Avery spoke on education and ethics.
From your contact with the officers here today, how would you assess the morale level of the police in Newcastle?
Well, the morale level appeared to be quite strong this morning. They were asking questions in an interested and intelligent way, and they weren't whinging. Maybe they don't whinge to commissioners.
The police force has been under fire, though, from all directions, from the police board itself, from the Stay Safe Committee on the activities of the Highway Patrol, and from the public. So is morale a major problem for you?
Well, we've always got to think about morale, but, you know, 'twas ever thus. We need criticism, and we will respond constructively to criticism, but I want to get the positive side of policing. We can see that the public want a police force, they desperately need a police force they can trust, and that's what we want to give them. We're trying to give them. When we do offer them facilities to cooperate with us, such as the Neighbourhood Watch, I guess Newcastle is responding in the same way as they are in the metropolitan area. They are coming in droves. They want to work with the police to reduce crime. They've had a gut full of criminals, and the way the criminals are making, and thugs and hoodlums are making us change our lifestyle.
it's applied to those things which in the United Nations Charter are regarded as necessities of life, and I'm thinking of food and clothing, things like children's school shoes and clothes, and building materials for new houses, which is shorter, then I think it will operate as a flat tax which operates on everybody regardless of their ability to pay. That would be most unfair and very, very hard on most people in the Australian community, particularly people on average or less than average earnings and pensioners.
Well, Treasurer Keating says the tax system must be overhauled. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. We're getting too much money from income tax, and part of the consequence of that is that income tax is not working as a tax system. It's failed.
So what ought to be done then?
I think we should have what I'd like to call a windfall profits tax. I don't like it called a capital gains tax because the Democrats believe it should exempt the family home completely and also provide rollover provisions for farms and businesses, things of that kind. But we would like to see those tall poppies, those people who make millions of dollars out of share and land transactions and who now don't pay a cent in tax, we would like to see them pay a tax, and I think that would go a long way towards financing income tax reductions.
On another matter altogether, the
The German, Italian, French and English leaders say the trade embargo will simply create closer links between Nicaragua and the Soviet Union. President Reagan also got a cool response in Bonn on his Star Wars missile defense project, but America was praised for its positive proposals at the recent Geneva arms negotiations. This weekend, President Reagan will make his controversial visit to the Bitburg War Cemetery. Bitburg has had close associations with the United States since the establishment of the American Air Base there 30 years ago. Town officials are now afraid the wartime racial bitterness may be restored when the President visits the cemetery where SS guards are buried. Meanwhile, there was a reunion of former SS guards in the alpine town of Neffelswang this weekend. Some of the former stormtroopers resented the presence of the media, while others couldn't understand what all the fuss was about. In Poland, 2 US diplomats have been expelled from the country for taking part in a May Day demonstration by members of the banned Solidarity trade union. The United States, in turn, expelled 4 Polish diplomats.
And told the US is expelling 4 Polish diplomats in return.
These men are taking their lives in their hands. Every year they come out to Valentine for the bed race, and every year we're bombarded with tomatoes, flour and water, mostly from fellow competitors, but occasionally from the overzealous spectators. This year David Sayers from 2MC, Mark Rockfield from the Newcastle Herald and John Norris from the Star braved the elements and took to their beds. The beds are made out of sturdier stuff this year, and they need to be. After a hard-fought race, Mark Rockfield came out the winner. The day raised $1,000 for the Lions Journey to Science project.
One aspect of steaming which sets it apart from just your average play is that several female members of the cast are required to appear nude, not surprising as the play is set in a steam bar. Gwen Plum, who plays a conservative character, dresses in pink plastic to visit the bar, but Amanda Muggleton portrays a much more extroverted character.
A girl who's had nothing, she's had no education, she's come from probably the lowest of the low type of family, mixed with criminals, and is a woman who believes that she has to have a man to support her. One of her lines is, he sleeps in my bed, he's entitled to pay me bills. And another line is, oh, I hate responsibility. If I can find someone to look after me, why should I go out to work? So that's her attitude to life.
The nudity has made it a very controversial play. How do you feel about that, Gwen?
What else would you do in a steam bath? You wouldn't go in fully dressed and everything. It's a place you do go in. Women go into theirs, and then on Men's Day the men go in. They strip off, they steam, they go in the pools to freshen off, they wash their hair, they take a bath, if they what. It's a very natural thing to do. Everybody familiarise
opens at
themselves
the
with
Civic
going.
Theatre on the 18th of this month and
in
runs until
every
the 25th.
review this time, they've talked about the superb teamwork, the ensemble playing, and that. Josie in particular.
The industrial
While the
development
proposal was
committee will
put
be made
forward
up
by
of
a
small
private
number of
developer,
successful
the 14
businesses and senior members of the council staff. Mayor of Lake Macquarie, Alderman Jeff Pasterfield, says the committee will examine different aspects of industry with a view to creating employment in the city. In a separate initiative, council also voted to prepare a tourist marketing study to define tourism objectives. The move coincides with the Lake Macquarie Tourist Association's first annual general meeting to be held this afternoon.
Why have you decided to undertake the tourism study?
Well, the study will, of course, go into the possible marketing of Lake Macquarie, both inside and outside of the area, mainly outside, of course.
What will the study involve?
It'll involve an examination of those things that would be supportive of that marketing.
Now, you've also called for a report on establishing information centres at Swansea and Morisset. What will these involve?
Well, these would involve a long-term idea that we've had of establishing centres on our southern boundaries to intercept potential tourists who might wish to stay in Lake Macquarie for a period of their holidays.
And why have those two areas been selected?
Well, at Swansea it has a natural location because it comes off the Pacific Highway at that point, and we also have the situation at Morisset where the new expressway will feed for some considerable time directly into Morisset.
Recognised that we did not have the expertise to alone offer
all members of society who offered home insurance, that for dwelling and contents. He said an association has been formed with one of Australia's largest insurance companies, New Zealand Insurance,
anywhere in Australia,
which already exists on the ground floor of society's King Creek premises.
Of the company, the speed of processing the claims. Yes, I can say that.
Removal of the $50 excess. Why has
you might answer it in one
chose to service just home insurance?
But stage one is household, because that is the universal need of most families. Down the line further, certainly there'll be stage 2, stage 3. We will be widening the range of packages that are available.
And why was the association struck up with New Zealand Insurance?
Good question. We recognised, and we did exhaustive testing last year as to what our customers were needing. We recognised the fact that we didn't possess the expertise to handle this exclusively ourselves. We virtually invited tenders from the top insurance companies in Australia. We were interested in somebody who was strong, who was secure, who was reputable, and at the same time who could produce a range of goodies in terms of charges and facilities for the people insuring with them.
Of course, the abolition of this $50 excess seems quite appealing, but someone who's a slight cynic might say, well, the tab's going to have to be picked up somewhere else.
Actually, that isn't the case. What we're seeing in the financial markets today, and I certainly include the insurance companies when I say this, there is a narrowing of the margins involved. Competition is increasing, the game is getting tough. The successful organisations are those who are going to be able to provide a wide and excellent range of service to their clients. We're in that position, so is New Zealand Insurance.
Fine, that's great.
Reached the scene just south of Northcross Drive, the situation was already chaotic. The 18-ton load was spread across all 6 lanes of the highway and piled against the concrete barrier in the middle. Traffic was completely stopped, so the first priority was to clear these one lane of the Even so, vehicles were banked up well down Northcott Drive and along the highway back almost to the Glebe Road lights. The Victorian-owned truck had been just beginning a journey from Access Industries in Hamilton to deliver the pallets to Melbourne. The driver, Peter Nelson of Benalla in northern Victoria, was nonplussed by the whole affair. All he could say was he looked in his mirror soon after turning right out of Northcott Drive to see the pallets falling. The weight wrenched the coupling apart and the prime mover remained upright until the fuel tank was ruptured and almost a full load of diesel fuel had to be allowed to flow down a nearby drain. Miraculously, as they say, no one was injured in the mishap and not one other vehicle became tangled in the mess. Eventually, one of the northbound lanes was taken over by southbound traffic, but police advised anyone heading from the city towards Belmont to travel around the lake. It's expected to be some time yet before traffic is flowing freely through Highfields again.